Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. There have been plenty of storylines coming out from this Miami Hurricanes football program as spring practice has kicked off. You've seen JoJo Trader, you've seen Elijah Lofton, you've seen Malachi Tony really start to step up as young pass catchers. Xavier Lucas, Zachariah Poison, the transfer portal additions in the defensive back room, they have been as advertised from what we've heard in spring practice. Justin Scott, Armando Blunt, year two defensive lineman, looking good in spring practice. Those storylines, if I were to have told the Miami Hurricane fans 4 weeks ago that this was happening, I don't think a lot of us would have been all that surprised. We knew that a lot of those names that we just listed were good football players that were probably going to be difference makers for Miami in 2025. The one storyline that we've seen play out during spring practice that I don't think even I don't think a single Miami fan listening to this probably had on their bingo card. I certainly did not. Was that three-star defensive lineman, early enrollee true freshman Dante Simpson is standing out, and not only standing out for an early enrollee freshman along the line of scrimmage, it sounds like this kid is going to play for Miami in the 2025 season. Really big storyline for a couple of different reasons. I think most importantly, Miami was probably thinner than they want on the middle of that defensive line. From a depth standpoint, this is huge. But for Miami fans, let's not pretend that 2 years ago we didn't just see Ruben Bain coming and become an all ACC caliber football player as a true freshman. Now, am I getting up here and saying that that's going to be what Donta Simpson is for Miami in 2025? I'm probably not there yet. I want to see what he looks like in the spring game. This is a massive storyline. And to me, it was a really intriguing storyline. And I said, hey, I want to go back to this kid coming out of high school and talk about what we talked about and what we saw from him during his senior year and kind of talk about what he can bring to Miami immediately as a freshman in 2025. Before we get into it, as always, the Miami Hurricane fans, appreciate you guys. This one, a little bit more of a nitty-gritty episode on a Friday morning. The amount of support that the Miami Hurricane fans have shown the boys as we've talked spring practice storylines it's been amazing. Y'all know this is a program I really do like talking about. Cannot thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. And what I figured we would do here is let's go back and talk about Donta Simpson. Let's go back into the senior film a little bit and talk about what to expect from this kid going into 2025. Now, it starts with he was not the marquee name for Miami coming in the 2025 class. What people are talking about in terms of freshmen, Malachi Tony or a guy like Hayden Lowe, who's a five-star coming in as an early enrollee true freshman. Nobody was talking about low three-star Dante Simpson. This was a kid that Miami flipped late from Maryland, a guy that no doubt Miami did their due diligence on and said, hey, this kid is right in our backyard. We've probably had him on campus for camps. We've seen him work out. We've seen him play on Friday nights. A guy that was a late take in the process for Miami, but you make no mistake about it, they did their due diligence. Dante Simpson, they weren't flying blind when they took his commitment. They knew this kid pretty well. Now, you look at him and say, all right, why was he, kind of flying under the radar, and as of right now seems to be drastically outplaying his recruiting ranking? He's flying under the radar because he was not the biggest cat coming out. He's 6'3", 280, a little bit of a tweener. Spent some time playing out on the edge, was a little bit small to play on the inside. Then you turn on the film and say, one, the production at high-level football down there in South Florida was there. 20 tackles for loss, 8 sacks during his senior year. A guy that knows how to penetrate, a guy that knows how to get into the opposing offense's backfield. That's what stands out the most. There's a couple of things that you'll see on the film that I think are intriguing. One, plays with exceptional leverage. And that's probably your biggest concern, right? All right, 6'3", sub 300 pounds. Is he physical enough to play along the line of scrimmage at the power 4 level as a true freshman because he ain't the biggest cat in the world. He plays with such good leverage, and that's what when these smaller defensive linemen have success, that is their key. Hey, I'm not going to win with physicality because I'm 330 pounds. Dante Simpson's never going to be over 310 pounds during his career at Miami, but if you can play with good leverage and get underneath a lot of these bigger offensive linemen, gives you a big time opportunity to win at the point of attack. That's all over his film. He plays with exceptional leverage. Then you look at the first step quickness and say, okay, because he's smaller, he probably has to be a better athlete than some of the big bodies that he's working against on the middle of that offensive line. He certainly has that first step quickness. He knows how to get off blocks, and he has a deep, deep toolkit of pass rush moves. This kid is a very polished pass rusher who really knows what he's doing. And so he's a guy that probably flew under the radar coming out of high school because he wasn't 6'5", 315 pounds. He's not going to make your jaw drop when he walks into a room, but he's a guy that you turn on the film and say, really good football player that knows how he needs to operate as a player on the line of scrimmage because he's smaller and he does it at a high level. And you get into the film and say that this is a really, really intriguing kid for this Miami Hurricanes program. You see him working on the middle of the defensive line. The first thing you always see here is his first step quickness and his ability to be a problem athletically for interior offensive linemen. It is very much there. He's always the first one off the football. And when you can be that way, going up against, 330-pound interior offensive linemen, that's a real benefit. You see him move around a lot as well. You'll see him out on the edge. You'll see him play the three-tech. Heck, you'll see him sometimes at the high school ranks play at the nose. I mean, he can move all along the defensive line. And then you continue to work through it and say, he knows what he's doing. Look at the hand usage. I mean, one, again, really, really good first step off the line of scrimmage, and we know how to use our hands. A deep, deep toolkit of pass rush moves to win as a pass rusher. That's another thing that stands out. You're going to see on a couple of reps him play with exceptional leverage too, which I think is really intriguing. How about running the line of scrimmage? And this is a guy that, this is more of a pass rush. We're going inside swim there. Again, really clean pass rusher that knows what he's doing. He's not just relying on being bigger, stronger, faster. Now, he is a strong kid for his size. He's a very, very good athlete who's extremely fast off the football, but he blends those physical traits with, I know what I'm doing as a football player too, which is probably the biggest thing that a lot of these young defensive linemen kind of get hung up on. Is they're used to just winning because I'm bigger, stronger, faster. Well, when you get to the college level and you're only an 18-year-old kid, you're not bigger, stronger, faster than the redshirt seniors you're playing against. You got to be a good football player, too, if you want to play early. Dante Simpson's that guy. He's a really good athlete. This is kind of what I mean by leverage. I mean, again, he's not the biggest defensive lineman. You can see it on the film. There are bigger bodies next to him on the line of scrimmage here. But what he does do is, look at the pad level here. I mean, we're going to try to freeze frame it. This is as good as it gets playing with leverage. And you're going to see here, he's probably giving up weight to this offensive lineman he's working against, but it doesn't matter because you see the leverage. You see him get right underneath this offensive lineman. Big time power in the hands. We're going to get off a block. We're going to run the line of scrimmage, and we're going to go make a play. Because he's a little bit smaller, he's not going to just overwhelm with physicality because of his size. He knows he has to play with good pads, and he really does that at a high level, and that's what intrigues me the most. Again, really clean pass rusher. You see a spin move, and then you see some little bit of burst and bend to get off that block. I believe they threw a flag here with some holding, too, because he was getting grabbed. Good athlete pursuing the quarterback, which really matters. That's becoming a big storyline where, yeah, you want those big 330-pound nose tackles, but with how athletic these college football quarterbacks are, you need to have defensive linemen who are athletic that can go run and chase and make plays. Dante Simpson's that guy. Continue to work through the film. I think this is where you see him run the line of scrimmage. Again, you're a little stretch zone here. We got to be athletes when we're big and we're seeing run outside the tackle. Dante Simpson's that guy. I mean, he can run the line of scrimmage like the best of them. Why is this such a big storyline? Again, am I getting up here and saying Dante Simpson's going to play 60-plus snaps a game and be a first-team All-ACC guy as a true freshman? No. but you're a little bit thin on the middle of the defensive line. You have Justin Scott, who we feel really good about going into year two. You have Ahmad Moten, who we know is a very quality football player, who I think is only getting better as a player going into 2025. You bring in David Blay from Louisiana Tech, who we know can play. Three proven commodities, right? Three. Artavius Jones is, kind of a question mark. I'm personally confident that Artavius Jones can give Miami some good snaps in 2025, but we don't necessarily know because we didn't see him a ton as a freshman. As we sit right now, we have three proven commodities on the inside of that defensive line. You probably want that number to be closer to 5 or 6. Let's assume Artavius Jones can play. We get 4. You probably want one more. If Dante Simpson proves to be a guy that can play 10 to 15 quality snaps a game for Miami, that's a huge storyline. Now, I would not be surprised. I mean, you could mention Josh Horton, but the thing with Josh Horton is he struggled with injuries, and we haven't really heard much or seen from him during the last couple of years. Do we think Miami will still go to the transfer portal and grab an interior defensive lineman? I think that's certainly in the cards because I think you probably don't want to have to rely on Artavius Jones and Donta Simpson, two guys that we don't necessarily know what they are yet. But if you're a Miami Hurricane fan, you're sitting here and saying, all right, I feel a little bit more comfortable about the depth of the defensive line that it did 4 weeks ago. And it's the most underrated storyline when you're evaluating defensive linemen. I think it's really easy just to go to the star talent, Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, Justin Scott, David Blay. It's a really good starting four. You're only as good as your depth on the defensive line because you're rotating those big bodies in a lot. And if you have significant drop off going into your 2s and 3s on the defensive line, it's hard to dominate a football game. The emergence of Dante Simpson is sneaky becoming one of the more fascinating storylines in spring practice, but it's also a really big storyline for Miami as well. The other name I'll mention here, Booker Pickett. Look, Booker Pickett, the OG Miami Hurricane fans, the ones who've been rocking with the boys for the last 2 years, know this my guy. That's my guy. I loved him coming out of high school. An elite pass rusher that we knew had to add some mass to become a college football pass rusher. Well, you didn't hear much from him as a freshman, which was to be expected because he just wasn't ready physically. You're starting to hear some good things from him going into year two. Now, do I think he's a guy that plays 40, 50 snaps a game? No, because I think and here's the thing with Booker Pickett is he might never be that guy. He might never be a Ruben Bain that plays a ton on first and second down because Booker Pickett, I don't think will ever be an elite run defender, but he can be an elite pass rusher. And I'm not talking about just a good pass rusher. I'm talking about one of the best in college football. If he can start giving you some of that in 2025, because we talked about it, what's the best way to help your secondary out? Get an elite pass rush going. We got two guys that can stop the run. Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor. I think Armando Blunt's going to be able to. I think Hayden Lowe is going to be able to. They're little big physical edge defenders. Well, who are you going to be your elite pass rushers? Yeah, Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, Armando Blunt, Hayden Lowe. They can rush the passer. What if Booker Pickett emerges as this pass rush weapon for Miami in 2025? Yeah, we ain't going to play him on a first and second down because we don't think he can stop the run all that well. Third and longs, trot him on the field. He's fresh. He's ready to get after the quarterback. He has no other responsibility than just pinning his ears back, getting after the quarterback. That's intriguing for Miami Hurricane fans. We'll close it out there. Dante Simpson, going to be one of my favorite players to watch in spring practice, kind of see where he's at and see if he can play for Miami in 2025. Because if he can, and it doesn't have to be more than 20 snaps a game, but if he can give you 20 quality snaps as a depth piece, as a true freshman, really encouraging. And what I'll say about him is I think he's a younger kid. I think he's only 17 years old right now. He's 17 years old right now going up against the guys like James Rockermine and Nez Cooper, who I think are 24, maybe 23, 22. But what does he look like going into year 2, year 3? So not only do you have a guy that I think can probably, or sounds like he might be able to give you some quality snaps as a freshman. What is this kid going to look like when we go 2026, 2027, when he's going into year 2, year 3? to me, that excites me. And you can tell Mario Cristobal's put a ton of effort and time building an elite defensive line. A lot of these guys were recruited out of high school. Ruben Bain, Justin Scott, Armando Blunt, Artavius Jones. I'm really excited about what this defensive line can be for Miami in the 2025 year. We will close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.